Hello and welcome to another edition of Overcoming Illness. So tonight I'm really excited. We have a special guest tonight, Brian Coletto. If you haven't seen my show before, this is Overcoming Illness, and we interview people that are going through any kind of health challenges or disability challenges even as well. I myself suffered from multiple food allergies. I am a health coach. Um, I do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking engagements, and now my own TV show. So if you haven't seen any of the other shows, please go back and watch them. We've had some amazing guests. Last week we had a guest that's overcome being deaf and working in the deaf community. She's hard of hearing. So please go back and watch that one. I've had people that have gone through cancer, congestive heart failure, mold toxicity, autoimmune illness. The list goes on and on. So please go back and watch the replays. I do want to ask you to go over to YouTube if you're not on YouTube at some point, and please give Elevation TV Network some love. Make sure you subscribe to their channel, like their videos, and watch some of their other videos, not just the one I'm on, because you will get some amazing inspiration and motivation there. And just wanted to let you know, I am looking for people to be on the show. Somebody that's overcoming an illness. It can be emotional, it can be a disability, it could be Lyme disease, cancer, whatever it might be, COVID variants even. You could be a spouse, a doctor, an apostle, a pastor. It doesn't matter. We need your stories. People need your inspiration and motivation, which is why I'm so excited Brian said yes to be on tonight. Brian and I met on Clubhouse the other night. And so let me tell you a little bit about Brian and why he is here with us tonight. And I'm so grateful to have him here. Brian is a production assistant and social media administrator for a nonprofit vocational rehabilitation agency for developmentally challenged adults. He's also been on a fitness journey for almost 16 years. He makes reels, usually about autism, which is what Brian has, is autism. He calls himself a man who is on the spectrum. So welcome, Brian. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
Thank you for having me, Paula.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. I'm so excited for the world to hear your story, and for me to hear your story. So, Brian, you told me a little bit before we came on, but please tell the audience where you're from, what state you're living in. You know, do you have family, brothers, sisters? Just give us a little bit about your background, and then we'll go into some of the questions.
All right, so I am Brian Coletto, and I was born and live in Edison, New Jersey, and I have a mom and a dad, and I have an older sister.
Mm-hmm. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about your sister. You started to tell me a little bit about this. I would love for the audience to hear a little bit about her too, because she's part of the family and what you all represent, really. So tell us a little bit about your sister as well.
Well, I don't want to say too much publicly.
Okay.
But I will say that she's a special education teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I will leave it at.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and we respect that. So tell us about yourself. When did you get diagnosed? Tell us about your growing up. How old were you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4.
Okay.
And growing up, there were definitely challenges as it related to making friends and getting along with classmates at school. Not that it was like totally bad all the time, but there seemed to be challenges a lot. And people would make fun of me. Um, and mind you, I was growing up at a time when autism wasn't as known.
Mm,
Uh, but but a lot of it is stuff that any kid could go through.
mm-hmm.
So, um, but but it did get better over time as
Mm-hmm.
things went along, especially in high school. Um,
Good.
so, but a lot of people did go different directions after we graduated, and even though we've got social media, and social media was just starting to emerge when uh, when I graduated in 2007.
Mm,
Uh, but but you know, without giving too much away, what I will say is that a lot of many of them respect me now,
mm-hmm.
and many of them have been following my journey. And there's sometimes been a few people that I've seen um, since high school, and they
Mm-hmm.
always have uh, some nice things to say to me, and I'm I feel blessed by that.
Well, I want to tell you, Brian, I was picked on growing up as well. I was bullied. And here's the funny thing, Brian. Some of them friended me on Facebook, and we are still friends to this day. So you never know what's going to change as you get older. I said this in the last show, and I'll say it again. I don't condone bullying. I think it can be very violent these days, and it can be very severe. But for me, my own experience, I will say it strengthened me. Do you feel like you're being picked on strengthened you, Brian?
Yeah, I do feel like that.
Like I said, I don't condone it. It can be very devastating for some people. I mean, it can cause suicidal thoughts and depression, and it can do a lot to a kid. Believe me, I was there. I was depressed. I was suicidal because people were picking on me and all of that. But at the same time, it made me who I am. I wouldn't be on this TV show right now. You know, it did strengthen me. So I'm glad to hear that it strengthened you too, because you probably wouldn't be who you are either. But like I said, I don't condone, especially the violent bullies out there. Let's face it, the whole world is a bunch of bullies. It can be kids, it can be adults. It does strengthen us, but when it gets to be severe and violent, I think it's just it's wrong. I will say that. So, Brian, how did you get into your day job? And tell us a little bit about what that job is, what it entails. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what happened was towards the end of high school was when I was hooked up with an agency um, to help with job sampling and figuring out um, if I could get a job somewhere. Ultimately, that one did not work out, and I spent a little over a year after I graduated high school looking to land that first job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, what happened was about 15 years ago, I went to an orientation for the post office, and it left a sour taste in my mouth. I had a lot of my heart set on the post office, and the orientation left a sour taste in my mouth, and and at that time I didn't drive, and I was always mindful of my mom's schedule as well, and so I turned that down. And then they did call me a few months later, and I once again uh, had said no, and my parents were very upset at that time, but they would later acknowledge that I made the right decision with that. And there were some other interviews I went on that ultimately just did not work out.
Mm-hmm.
I also had some some major issues with a bus service that I had been uh, accepted into as a person with a diagnosis like autism. Um, and so that was what propelled me into driving. More on that later. But it was towards the end of summer 2008 that my mother mentioned the agency that I work for now, which it's public out there, so I'll just say it, Edison Sheltered Workshop, soon to be renamed DSW Occupational Services as of this recording. And uh, my mom has been on the board for that since the year 2000. And so she mentioned that to me, and I decided to apply to be a volunteer. And I started out as a volunteer for 5 months before I got hired in February 2009. And uh, my first job title there was production aide.
Okay.
And I, my, while my roles with that uh, slightly changed over the years, uh, my actual job title did not change until last March when I got promoted to production assistant. And before I got promoted to production assistant, a few months before, I was named a co-administrator of our LinkedIn page. And so, uh, so I got that particular title in November 2021, and then the production assistant title in March 2022. And then at the beginning of this year, the co-administrator of LinkedIn was renamed social media administrator. And as of this recording, um, the plan is to cross post to Facebook once I can get access to the business page that has already been made for ESW on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, um, so, but social media is not all that I do for the agency. I
Mm-hmm.
also help on the production floor with setting up work and moving pallets. And this is manufacturing production that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And and I also assist with attendance and payroll for the
Oh, wow.
agency.
Yeah. It's a big job. Yeah. HR is not easy. That's huge. Yeah. So what do you do? Like, do you help others there? What do you do in that aspect?
Yeah, I help others. Um, I assist with teaching jobs,
Mm-hmm.
uh, making sure work gets done properly. If there's a behavioral issue, I help with addressing that, although sometimes it's not in my realm too, and I have to yield to a better colleague to do that, or a colleague that's more suited to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, well, I could definitely understand that. Now, do you have any testimonials of a time that you might have helped somebody?
um, I I don't have any direct testimonials.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about building the community.
Yeah, so um, I think that there's I've always been known around Edison, my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my last name is floating around the town a lot, not just because of me, but other people
Mm-hmm.
as well. And and so, but what it was though was that as I hinted earlier, after I graduated high school,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, where do I go from here?
Right.
And I did not go to college,
Mm-hmm.
and my only learning experience is doing some online courses
Mm.
since I graduated high school. Uh, so um, the opportunities um, seemed a bit few far in between with the agency to build community.
Mm.
Um, but I don't want that to alarm people. I'm just saying. Um, so for so what happened was in 2014, I made a friend at our agency's annual dinner, and then I and before 2014, there were times where I reached out to people when I was pursuing work in the fitness industry, um, and ultimately that did not work out. But but yeah, in 2014, I made the friend, and and then I reached out to somebody that they were in a photo with, and found out about a now defunct young adult group um, that is faith based or was faith based, and that was where I felt my first calling, and it was also a calling for me to dive deeper into my faith,
Mm.
and um, and so it involved me um, stepping away from the church I grew up at to uh, pursue what I ultimately felt I needed to do, which was uh, worship alongside my peers more, because I didn't have a lot of them um, at my childhood church,
Mm-hmm.
and and from there, um, I would do the young adult group stuff for a few years, and then once the big group died down, there were smaller groups that formed because of the big group. Once the
Mm-hmm.
once the big group, which was known as Faith on Tap, ended, um, then I started getting into other um, activities like street fairs and Rotary and networking,
Wow.
and and so that was what took up a lot of time in 2019. And uh, before I get too far into that, right at the moment, I will say that through going to different churches um, that I didn't grow up at, I did have some challenges,
Mm.
and so it was not always smooth sailing, and there were some mistakes I made along the way, which I wish I hadn't,
Mm-hmm.
and 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 so it derailed um, some of the process as it related to me growing in faith,
Mm.
but um, but it it did help me learn. There were some social things that I didn't really have a chance to learn as a teenager that I had to learn on the fly.
Mm.
Um, so, um, but 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 then the big source of where some of those social challenges came was actually from the person that introduced me to Faith on Tap, and I had once I separated from that person and their family about 4 years ago completely. That was when I really started to get into more of those other community events
Mm-hmm.
and realized where my next phase of growth really needed to come. And thank God it did in 2019 because I made some key connections that helped me get into the virtual world immediately when the COVID pandemic hit. And
Mm-hmm.
then one of those same connections uh, invited me to Clubhouse about 2 years ago
Wow.
before it became open to the public.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's amazing. So tell us a little bit, just for, for the audience, if someone out there is dealing with some challenges, if they're autistic or even have a child that's autistic or a kid, um, what were some of the challenges about in the church, if you care to share?
In the church,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, I wouldn't say that it was directly tied to the church,
Okay.
the autism part. Um, More of the challenge with church was that there just wasn't a lot of people,
Mm.
and although they are loving, and I love them dearly to this day, and they know that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so, but it was just that I knew that there was something missing, and and I needed to fulfill what I was missing in my life,
Mm.
and,
Wow.
and it definitely was not easy. It was especially very hard on my mother
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to walk away,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm technically still a member there to this
Mm-hmm.
day. Um, but yeah, she later came to grips, and that's something that I really love about
Mm.
my mother is that although there is sometimes a lot of backlash over time, she can adapt to uh, the the direction I want to go because she understands that I have all the best intentions with people
Mm-hmm.
and and how I want to do things.
Yeah, it really sounds like you wanted a bigger community. You just needed more. Like you wanted to expand. Um, God was calling you to expand. To really just to fly. Like, you got on that virtual bandwagon and that's how you started to fly, you know. Yeah. So it doesn't sound like it was anything bad. It just sounds like, you were just being called for more and you knew it. And I give you credit for not only knowing it, but like you said, doing something about it. A lot of people don't. They feel, and that doesn't even have to be like with a church. It can be in a job. You feel like you just get stuck, and even though you know you meant for more, you just don't don't explore it. So I give you a lot of credit for that. It's not easy, and like you said, it wasn't easy with your mom, which makes it even harder. But she was supportive. So thank God for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, um, yeah, and those last few months before I stopped attending the church regularly back in 2015, um, it was definitely um, difficult,
Mm.
um, and and one of my friends from that church, who I would later see in different settings, she would remind me that the last few months that I was attending regularly, I was miserable there
Mm.
because I knew that in my heart I did not want to be there
Yeah.
on a regular basis at that point.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know sometimes it's not easy. So tell us a little bit about your fitness journey. How old were you? What got you into fitness?
I was 18,
Wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, I was steadily gaining weight throughout school,
Okay.
and especially in high school. And there were times in high school when um, mom tried to get me off of soda, and it failed. And then right after high school, I remember her telling me one day that it wasn't good for my teeth, and I was like, that's enough for me to start cutting down on that. So
Mhm.
I did that. I also started biking because remember, this was this was when I graduated high school. I had nothing to do,
Mm.
so I I wanted to just do something, and
Mhm.
then I started seeing my weight drop. I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I could do this. So uh, so I so I stuck with it. I eventually stopped drinking soda altogether over a decade ago,
Mhm.
um, and and over time, uh, there've been adjustments here and there with both nutrition and exercise.
Mhm.
I I didn't join a gym until 2012, um, the summer of,
Mhm.
and but and that was shortly after I actually got certification in personal training.
Well, you
Um,
did some.
yeah, and then
Okay.
I renewed it in 2014, and then shortly after I stopped pursuing work in that field for a few reasons, and and but I appreciated uh, the everything I learned
Mhm.
through the education with that,
Yeah.
um, and and it made it easier to apply in the gym, and
Mhm.
I stuck with going to the gym until the pandemic hit in March 2020,
Mhm.
and then I pivoted to working out at home,
Yeah.
and and I've just stuck with that ever since.
Mhm.
Um, the emergence of Clubhouse and social audio made it easier for me to stick with it at home,
Yeah.
uh, and also my traveling ambitions also
Mhm.
made it easier for me to just
Yeah.
do it
Right.
at
Yeah.
home. So, but yeah, I made adjustments with lifting weights and because I did drop weight, but then I gained it in the
Mm.
form of lifting. And yes, there's been times where I've gained a little bit of little extra baggage here and there too, um,
Mhm.
because you know that's life. And
Right. Exactly.
I I used to uh, have ice cream all the time. Now I usually only have it on the weekends. Um,
Gotcha.
so I made an
Yeah.
adjustment with that, and over the last few months, I've actually started consistently buying a few of my own groceries too.
Mm. Mhm.
So uh, yeah, so taking a few matters into my own hands, and
Mhm.
my biggest thing that I would say to people is nutrition first.
Yeah.
Nutrition first in the form of food. Um,
Yeah.
the other stuff can wait, like the supplements. I mean, of
I,
course, if you can use them, but make sure that it's right for you
yeah.
um, and your goals. And yeah, and I just I feel blessed where I'm at now
Mhm.
on my journey.
Yeah.
It's no longer about the pounds lost because the pounds are pretty much the same at this point as it
Right.
was when I graduated high school, but the body composition is different,
Yeah.
and and I can relate to anybody, no matter what size they are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a little bit about my fitness journey. And yes, I've had to evolve how I tell that story over the years.
Oh yeah. It's funny. I gave up soda many, many years ago. Like I was in that borderline age where you could, still lived at home, but you could kind of choose what you wanted. Mom and dad didn't tell you what you could have. So I used to be addicted to like orange soda, I think it was, and I gave it up. And oddly enough, the pounds started dropping for me because soda was it was putting the pounds on. It's all that high fructose corn syrup and everything in it. And yeah, that was one thing. And I gave it up for Lent, oddly enough. I have to always give something up for Lent. There's two things I gave up for Lent and I never went back to. I gave up salt one time and I gave up soda. Salt I went back to, but not like I used to. Like I used to like douse the salt on everything. And that was back I'm 55. I'm not afraid to say it. But when I grew up, we didn't have all these seasonings and marinades and stuff. So it was like you had to like douse everything with salt because you had nothing else. But I started using a lot less of it, and I never ever went back once I gave it up. So those two things right there can be life changing because salt, especially iodized salt. Here's a tip for you guys. And none of what we say today is medical advice meant to cure, heal any illness or any of that. But and it's for educational purposes only. But I will say, if you switch just from iodized salt to like Himalayan pink salt, iodized salt's really hard to digest. It's processed, so that's going to keep you bloated. So that's one tip. Just switch your salt. Stop if you're doing soda. Start low, either lessen it daily or stop it altogether, and you're going to notice you may start to lose some weight if you're struggling with weight loss. So those are two tips for tonight. Yeah. So yeah, Brian. So tell us about your videos. I'm so excited to start watching some of your reels because I've been like a TikTok lurker, and now I'm going to start doing my own. Tell us about your reels. Like, what do you? I wish we had like a share that we could show some of your reels, but I don't know how to do that yet. Maybe you could show me. Tell us a little bit about your videos, how people can find your videos. Tell us, like, what do you do on your videos? What's your whole goal when you do a video?
Well, my usual goal with the videos is to educate about autism.
Okay.
And I do that through usually using trending sounds that are not my own. And I will sometimes dance in the videos. There's been a few where I've lifted weights in the videos, but usually it's dancing or acting out something and providing that form of entertainment as it relates to the videos.
Yeah.
And they can be found on any platform except for Twitter. I have not made a Twitter yet. I've been considering it for the longest time now, but I do post them on my Facebook, my Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and my YouTube channel. If you just search Brian Coletto on everything, you should be able to find me.
Okay. I'll have to connect with you on TikTok. And then I'll duet you. Yeah, we'll have to do that. Well, that's awesome. So let's see. We still have quite a bit of time left. Tell us about some of your challenges, even growing up with autism. Like, from what I know, and I could be way off base, you can tell me, but from what I know about autism, a lot of times people are very gifted with autism. They can be very artistic or musical. Was there a specific niche that you were gifted in? Or do you think it's music? What do you think it might be?
Well, I played mostly trombone growing up as a kid. from like, fourth or fifth grade all the way through high school, and I even played several times for my childhood church for the holidays from like early 2000s until the 2010s hit. And I never owned my own instrument. Um, and I I stopped playing once 2010 hit as I felt like I needed to focus more on my improving fitness. Um, so um, so that, but music does live within me. I also
Yeah.
played a little bit of pit uh, in my senior year of high school. I only did
Mhm.
2 years of marching band, junior year, senior year.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, music is definitely a characteristic of a lot of people on the autism spectrum. It
Mm,
can lift people up, make people happy. It could also
absolutely.
help relay a message.
Hmm. Yeah. So what do you find challenging, the most challenging? Or do you not at all? Like you're just who you are and that's that?
I think what I find most challenging is ending stigmas. And I also find processing information to be challenging sometimes. Um, like, I cannot always process information as it relates to um, like what goes on Wall Street or 401ks
Mm-hmm.
um, or tax forms. That stuff that many of us would rather not deal with. That kind of stuff is challenging for me.
Guess
Um,
what? It's challenging for me too. I was telling Kalina on our last show. So one of I admit that it was a disability and still is. I was a slow learner. I'm the type of learner I could memorize. Maybe I have a little bit of autism. I don't know. Who knows? They didn't diagnose you back then. But I could memorize anything. And even when I worked in a prison, and even when I worked at the jail, I memorized every single phone number, which saved my butt whenever stuff hit the fan because I was just like dialing everybody's number without even looking it up. I could memorize anything, but give me algebra, American Sign Language, anywhere I had to figure out stuff or do like word problems, money. I even took a financial class later in life, and guess what they did? It was called personal finance, but guess what was in the personal finance class? Algebra. I'm like, why are you putting everything in all the algebraic equations? I just want to know how to manage my money. I don't want to take algebra all over again. So that was my challenge and still is to this day. I can't do any, like I said, I just memorize everything. Can't figure out stuff. That just makes my brain go like haywire. So I totally get that. So I get that challenge. Absolutely.
yeah, I was a math wizard growing up as a kid,
Okay.
and
Math was I
I'm still very good with
basic math.
numbers.
Yeah. Basic math I was a whiz. But start putting all that other stuff in there, the algebra. Here's like I even went back to school like to get my bachelor's degree. So you have to take algebra, right? Here I go again, trying to figure this out. And I could do like chapter by chapter. I could figure out those problems and ace it. Like I'd go to the math lab, I'd ace chapter by chapter. But then you go and take the test. Now you got 4 chapters in one. Forget it. I was all over the place. I'm like, I can't do it. I can almost feel my brain like hurting. Like it's like I just can't figure it out. So I get that. Like I guess a lot of us have some sort of. Sometimes it's I don't know how to say it. We're just all gifted in other ways. You know what I mean? And school, thankfully, is changing than when I grew up. But when I grew up, I was telling Kalina on our last show, things were either up here, where's my hand? Either up here or down here. There was like no in between. So like I would all of a sudden I would ace everything and I'd be like up here. But then they'd give me like all these reading things and stuff I had to understand, and then boom, I'm down below again. So that's how I wound up. Like I had to take special education classes. That's because there was no in between. Now school has changed. Like they have all these different levels for people, but back then they didn't. Everything was about reading and writing and taking a test. That was it. There was like no in between. So thankfully a lot of that has changed, and I hope Brian that that's something, maybe you also help with in the community. Do you do that? Do you get involved in the community in that sense, and like what the schools do?
No, I have not gotten involved with what schools do.
No.
I will say that my mother and my sister are involved with the
Good.
school systems
Good.
um, within the town and also the county that we live in.
That's
Um,
good.
so so they so they are involved. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there are people that have suggested to me that maybe I should consider um, doing a speaking gig within the school systems.
Yeah.
Um, I just have not pursued finding the proper source to reach out to for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, um, but but with time, it could happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this before we came on, a TED Talk or whatever. Because those students need people like you. They need inspiration. They need motivation, like, because it is, when you have any kind of learning disability, it is a challenge. You need to hear from other people that have gone through it. Another thing that people used to go through a lot. We were just talking about this friend of mine that I grew up with. He was dyslexic. And so he was always failing. And oddly enough, he used to cheat off of my papers. Where does that get you, right? I won't even tell you. But um, but it was because he was dyslexic, and all of a sudden, a teacher finally caught it. He went on to a different high school than me, and he excelled like no tomorrow because he finally knew what his problem was. So everybody has something. Well, not shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of us do. You know, and
Hmm.
you need to hear from other people that have something similar to you and how you can cope with it and excel in life. It's not really a big deal. It's just, I'd like to say it's not really even a challenge. It's just we're all built different. A lot of autistic people, like we said, they're brilliant. Some of them are musicians and artists. They're amazing. So they're not, they're just gifted in a different way. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm totally in line with
Yeah.
what you're saying about that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I will say that I definitely had some things put in place for me before community and networking really became a thing for me, and
Mm,
so I'm battling some of that now as I look to expand on streams of income and um, and taking on the world even more. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, there's definitely challenges, but I think that as time goes on, and also with all the people that I meet, everybody helps me in some way, shape, or form to get where I want to go in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And so, as long as I keep that moving forward and keep manifesting what I want,
Mm-hmm.
then one day I will get there.
Mm-hmm.
It may
Yeah.
take a long time, but I will get there. Um, I'm not somebody who's just going to sit home outside of the part time job and, um, and accept a paycheck from government as well. I'm not that kind of a person.
Mm.
Uh, so I've uh, I've got a lot to pursue, and also because of certain things that are more meant for privacy, I will I want to be able to gain even more independence,
Yeah.
uh, and be able to choose who I live with.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it. I mean, if we could all live together, that'd be great, right?
Right.
Like,
I,
instead of just limiting it to a family of four, because like social media has taught us that we all need to be together.
mm-hmm.
Um, you know, forget about the amount of likes and comments. It's just we all need to be together.
We need one another. Yeah. We need to help each other. Absolutely. And I think we've gotten to the point that we want to be independent. We want to live by ourselves. But guess what? The way things are going, we may have to start going back to the old days and live with family and grow our own gardens together. And I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we start living with our families again and helping each other. Granted, we'll all get on each other's nerves. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we might need that community to help us get through whatever happens. We don't know what's coming down the line. So tell us, Brian, what are some of your you shared a little bit of this with me before we came on, and if you don't want to, that's okay. I respect that. But tell us what are your dreams? Like, where do you want to go now? Like, what are your dreams?
Well, I'd love to be able to have a home that welcomes lots of people.
Mm,
Um, like you were just mentioning about people living together, right? Um, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be blood. It could
right.
just be people that choose
Which,
each other to live with,
yeah.
um, and that could be that that's somewhat of a dream of mine
Mm.
too. Um, so uh, because I wouldn't be able to run a mansion on my own, um,
Yeah, how
but
you're
uh,
going to do it.
but uh, but no. Besides that, I mentioned the traveling and the speaking gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my dreams would be to be able to earn income through different ways that sort of make me look like an entrepreneur. Maybe I don't necessarily start my own business, but I look like I am somebody who hustles and does all the things that an entrepreneur does to
Mm-hmm.
make a good living. Because the reality is, we can all have it all. You know, um, I say I say limit how much of newscasts you watch,
Oh, I know.
and just and don't let certain statistics get to you.
Yeah.
Just just keep that train moving forward. Of course, it's not going to be easy, and you know, I know it's a lot of times we just hear that rather than see that from people we look up to. Um, but the reality is, many of the people that have the big followings that have been there, done that with business, many of them have had uh, lots of times where they are in tears or they're like, "What am I going to do? How do I achieve success in that way?" Um, but they keep showing up every day,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's one of my dreams is to keep showing up every day and uh, figuring it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not leaving any options off the table, but
Right.
I have definitely shifted how I think in terms of the job market and
Yeah.
things like that. Because there are lots of ways that the job market is tough,
Mm, yeah.
and and also too that traditional jobs can be really detrimental to health,
Oh
and
yeah. When I know it.
and knowing everything that my father has been through health wise, I would not want to go down that road. That's
Wow.
part of the reason that I transformed myself too, is because of everything that my father has been through health wise,
Oh wow.
with numerous surgeries that he's had,
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
stuff
Sorry.
done on his heart, um, beating cancer twice.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, um, so yeah, he's.
Mm,
But we're blessed to have him
yeah.
around to this day,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, he wouldn't want me saying too much about him publicly either.
That's
But
okay.
you know, I I say what I feel is appropriate to say
Mhm. That's
publicly.
okay.
Um, that I don't think people will take advantage of. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
that's that's me, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that my parents have learned to live with, is the fact that I am more vulnerable than they would be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, we have like a few more minutes. Is there anything, any tips you want to give anybody out there, whether they're a parent of somebody with autism, parent, or it doesn't even have to be autism. It could be some kind of developmental disability, anything like that. Any tips for parents, the kids themselves? Any tips you want to give us?
yeah, for the parents, I would say be as involved in their education as you possibly can be,
Mm,
um, and that means the IEPs. That means potentially going to school meetings. Um, so be as involved as you can be, and because again, you've got to work together with the doctors and the case managers and the teachers, and you gotta fight for uh, what's best for your child, and to give them every chance to succeed. And as for the kids themselves, I say, um, you know, you'll deal with your challenges, and as long as you have a mindset of not staying in the same place for the rest of your life, it will get better over time. It
absolutely.
may look ugly at times. I mean, I went through a lot of tearful episodes, especially as a kid,
Yeah.
and even into adulthood. It seemed like sometimes there was at least one breakdown a month,
Mm,
and it and I understand that we're working to end the stigma of that
yeah.
too. Uh,
Right.
but at the same time, if we're gonna break down, we it's because it's not over spilled milk. It's because it's what's beautiful and necessary for the moment. Um,
I love that. Yeah.
so, um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've sometimes had my voice crack on social audio, and people don't always and don't see me. But but I've also shown it in person too, um, in different settings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You getting me teary eyed now. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that.
but
Well,
most
Brian,
of all for parents,
yeah, go ahead.
just yeah, most of all for parents. Um, I know it's not easy, but please be as patient as you possibly can
Mm,
with your children. Um, they may have trouble processing information. They may struggle to see the gray area between right and wrong, or struggle with nonverbal cues like I do,
Mm.
or need their directions that you're telling them to follow to be more concrete like I do. Um, and yeah, that's that's what I would say at the moment as it relates to the things that I deal with being on the autism spectrum.
And I'd even add to that, and I thank you for that. But even with any kid, one of the things I've been taught and realized over the years, a lot of things stick with us. It's almost like a little curse, like for me, I was really shy growing up, and that was kind of like you said, a stigma. It was like she's shy, she's shy, she's shy. I was shy forever, and then I was all of a sudden I came out of my shell. I thank God I did, because you're missing out when you're shy. You don't talk to people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't, you never know. Um, but there's all kinds of things that your parents say to you, and I mean, I remember just a stupid little thing, but it was when I was older, and my mother was like, "Well, you went to school just to be an assistant manager." Like the way she said it was just so rude and so mean. I mean, don't do that to your kids. I don't care what it is, and whether they're autism, a disability, or they're just a kid. Watch your words with your kids. It sticks with them. It, like you say, that stigma. It sticks with them. So just be careful with your words before you say. I know sometimes it's easy to say things. You're a little bit angry or upset, or in the heat of the moment. But just remember that might stick with them, and they're going to believe it for a long time until hopefully something breaks it. Anyway, I just wanted to add to that. So we've got about 2 minutes left. So Brian, once again, tell everybody where they can reach you. If you do have email, you want anybody to email you. If not, that's okay. If you just want them on social media, whatever your choice. Let everybody know how they can follow you.
Okay. You can follow me just by searching my first and last name on Instagram or TikTok. Basically, if you just put Brian Coletto on lowercase letters without any spaces or symbols, you will be able to find me on those two platforms. And then there's for the more professionals, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can also follow me on Facebook. My account is professional on there, and I'm also Brian Coletto on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to subscribe to your YouTube channel. So thank you again for being on tonight. This was amazing. I hope it helps somebody out there, or maybe even more than one person. I don't know. But I'm thankful to anybody who watches the replay, people that have popped in and out. I know there's been a couple of people coming in and out. Hopefully they'll go back and watch the replay. Once again, if you need to reach me, you can reach me either by going to the website, enrichyourhealth.com, enrichurhealth.com. I have free gifts there. I have a reversing illness ebook, so feel free to grab that. 6-day immunity meal plan guide. I have digital ebooks and recipe books. I'm looking to partner with other practitioners that have clients or patients that need customized recipes that they have to eat dairy-free, gluten-free, all of that, low sugar, things like that, because I had to do that. I had multiple food allergies. So once again, I'm looking for more guests for the show, people to be sponsors. So please reach out to me. You can get me on Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, or you can text me. My phone number is on the website, 508-330-9665 if you're only listening. So thank you again, Brian. This was amazing. I really, really appreciate you being on. And we will see you guys next Sunday. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.